that are doing very important stuff. That's not me, sorry. All right? All right, so I'm here to talk about, can you see it? Yeah. Let's try to play. All right, so first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. You've got a great community here. I really like to be a part of a community. I'm here to talk about offline first. I already got introduced, so this is me. This is a very bad picture of me, and some titles, and my Twitter handle. I'm organizing some community groups by myself. It's Nir Kaufman, but I'm going to show it at the end. Don't worry. If you want to follow me, it won't be a problem. I'm co-organizer both Angular NYC and React NYC in New York City. So if you're around, come and say hello. I'm also doing some important stuff. I'm volunteer at the APHD. Anyone heard about it? No? All right, anyway, we're supporting anonymous PHP developers. So if you're PHP positive or you know someone that still works with PHP, come talk with me. I'll give you a hug. We can support you, all right? Guys, don't laugh. This is a very serious stuff, all right, we're talking about. All right, let's talk about our biggest problem with web applications, which is the internet, yeah. Of course, the web itself. All right, we are all familiar with this screen. So the biggest problem today with the internet is that we got very sophisticated with our application, but the net is not always ideal. So we're not always online, which is a problem. And a web application without a web looks something like this. And it's not just like being at the desert. I mean, on my way here on the plane, I wanted to work on my slides to fine-tune them, and I couldn't do it because I didn't have any internet. So I paid too much money for United to get this crappy internet, and it didn't work at all. It's unstable signal, which is amazing to work on a talk about offline web app without any. All right. So we are always on the move when we're talking about offline web apps or PWA, progressive web apps. Most of the time, people are just talking about mobile phones, but it's not just about phones. I mean, I want to be able to open up my laptop. I've got my laptop on my backpack all the time. So it's not just about building a mobile web app, all right? It's also about building apps that works on laptops. It's something that really important for me to say. So what is a mobile-first web app? I think that's the best definition I heard. Try to get as much as possible from the local storage before trying to fetch it online. So that's it. So mobile-first, it's an approach to our design process. You don't have to think about being mobile first or, I can call it even offline first. Start from the beginning. You can always decide that you want to support some features offline and add the technology. The goal of this talk is to expose you to some tools that you might not familiar with and try to show you how easy it is to support offline. We try to do it with live coding, which probably going to fail, but that's the fun part. All right. So I put together some nice diagram on the plan because this is the only app that works offline. So excuse me. All right. Cool. I'm going to focus on service workers and Indexdb. Is there anyone here who never heard about the service workers? Don't be shy. Almost everyone. Cool. All right. Almost everyone. All right. Service workers, what is it? Is it ready? The answer is yes. This is a website that if you ask, is service workers ready? It just say yes. So currently, yeah, it's an amazing tool. I use it all the time. Currently, service workers are supported in all major browsers, even in things that come from Microsoft. Without naming, nothing, all right? How much can we store? If we talk about local storage, how much can we store on the client side? Who knows? Someone? 5 megs? All right, on local storage. But what about the rest? If I open the console, let's try to do this. Navigator, storage, estimate. It will return a promise, so we should wait for it. All right. We've got a lot of space. Actually, if you to be more specific, you've got almost a third of your hard drive space. So you can do it like this if you need to check it on your code, but you can go to the application tab and you can see how much storage do you get. So currently I can use like 50,000 megabytes of storage, which is a lot. So be aware that we've got a lot of storage. It's not just local storage and session storage, it's about cache and Indexdb, which we're going to talk about. Great, so we've got a lot of storage, we can do a lot of stuff with it. Play the slideshow. All right. The definition of a service worker: script that your browser runs in the background. Simple and straightforward, just like web workers. So it's a different thread. And the most useful thing that we can do with a service worker, and the reason that we use service workers, is to act as a proxy. So we can treat it as kind of an HTTP interceptor. We can catch all the traffic, all of our HTTP requests to the server, and we can do very exciting stuff with it. Now, service workers are almost, I think, too easy to start with. And let's try to do some live coding to see if I'm right or I'm just misleading you. Who using Visual Studio Code? Why? Yeah. All right. I will open my Visual Studio Code and then close it and switch to a real. No one, Big Lebowski. Come on. Entering of a wall of brain. All right. So let's open our Visual Studio Code. Quit it and open WebStorm. Consider to be a best practice, right? If you wonder. Anyway, let's get started with a service worker. So all I got to do is this: create a new file. Let's call it SW for service worker. Let's just put a console log. I'm a service worker. Next step, I'll go to my index.html file. Just a script tag, nothing fancy. Navigator. Service worker. Register. And we are ready to go. That's it. That's all you've got to do. I'll go back to the browser. I've got here a vanilla JavaScript version of the famous to-do whatever app, because the application doesn't really matter. We focus on the technology. If I go right here, yeah, I think I forgot which port I'm running on, which happens. Yep. Right? So if I go to this port, I'm a service worker, I've got a service worker register and running. So too easy to start. If you go to your application tab and hit the service worker tab, you can see your service worker, the sw.js, is activated, is running. I can click on it, I can see the code, so I can debug it, I can put breakpoints if I like. That's easy. Sometimes it sounds like, all right, PWA, service workers, offline, you have a learning curve, you don't have any learning curve. That's how you do it, all right? So it was almost too easy, all right? Just register a script. And this is an original picture of kids who just registered their first service worker. This is how I looked like when I did it for the first time. All right. Let's go back to the browser. So I've got this console log. I'm the service worker. I'm going to refresh, and there is no logs anymore. Why? A dramatic pause. Excuse me. Of course, because we've got a life cycle. First time when you load a web page with a service worker, you are in the install phase. The browser take your script and install it. All right, it's not activated yet. Next step, it will be activated, and right after it, it will be ideal and you can start fetching stuff. All right. So I can't use the F word here, but it was so easy. So I want to say, what a Firefox, all right? From here, after we register our script, it's become very, very easy to use. The service worker is event-driven. So if we're talking about those lifecycle events, let's register to them and see how it works. I'll go to my service worker. And let's just use self, add event listener. And because I'm going to use this method a lot, let's copy it 3 times. And here I'm going to listen for install. Just say install. Let's log it. We can catch the event here, of course. Same here. But here I'm going to listen to activate. And the most important event is fetch. So let's log. Fetch. All right? Let's give it a try. Very important things to do because we are playing now with service workers is to check this checkbox, update on reload. Because we want to see our code changes, we want to reactivate our service worker. So what I'm going to do is to check up this box. I can see only the fetch because I'm already activated. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open a new instance, new tab. And now I can see all of my lifecycle. Activated, install. Oh, all right, I've got a typo, but you've got the idea, all right? If I refresh the page, now I'm just fetching. Cool? All right, any questions up until now? All right, great. So actually this is very powerful because right now, if I can listen to fetch, maybe let's try to do something like this. Let's take the event request, the original request, and try to refresh, all right? So I've got a proxy up and running. Now I can take this request and I can do whatever I like with it. I can give you something back in response. Maybe let's do something like this. Event, respond with a new response, and let's say hacked by a service worker. Let's give it a try, all right? That simple. And actually, if you can install a script, and it will never go away unless you know what you're doing and you unregister it and you're a developer and you can open the console and do something with it, it will stay there activated forever. So we can do some really cool stuff with it. For example, let's see if I've got a slide for this. All right? Yeah. Now we've got like superpowers and a lot of hairs on our hands. All right. We can build a very sophisticated cache. When you become a superpower, you start to grow hair. It's part of the deal. Yeah, I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet. I'm not a superhero. So another amazing diagram that I was able to put together on my flight here is this. All right, we can build a sophisticated cache machine with few lines of code. Let's give it a try. So we can respond with whatever we like. We just need to catch the fetch and response. We listen to fetch, we replace it with whatever we want. We're going to replace it with our own version of fetch in a second, and then we can control the response. All right? So a basic proxy will look something like this. Can you see the code? All right. Easy and straightforward. Let's try to put it in our code. This time I'm not going to respond with an event. I'm going to do something like this. Event, respond with, and fetch. I'm going to call the original request. It will return a promise. So here I've got a response, which I can return, or catch an error. Let's do this, and here, new response. Now, if you look at this code, we can do great stuff with it, not just a 404 page. If you've got a problem, if you don't have any network, I can respond with whatever I like. I can respond with another link. I can respond with a picture. I can respond with a file. We can do some very interesting stuff with it. Actually, we're already familiar with some of those things. Yeah. Yeah. Another great picture. I want to show you some useful stuff that we can do with it, and then we can look at some fun stuff that we can do with it. So as I mentioned in my introduction, I work for a company named 500 Tech. And we're helping companies to build front-end. So we've got a bunch of companies that we work with. We help them to start a project, with the infrastructure, with the design part, with the actual coding, and then leave them alone. All right? So we are front-end developers. Our life is happy and everything is good on the front-end. But as we all know, our front-end developers are awesome, and the back-end is always a way behind of us. So we have a real-world problem as a front-end developers company. All right? Front-end developer consultancy. We want to move forward fast, but backend is way behind sometimes. Sometimes we just have the backend the API is changing all the time. So we looked for a good mocking solution and we couldn't find one. So we built this one, Mimic. Open source, and all of you can inspect the code, but I think it's a very nice example of how you can take a service worker and use it for development, not just for UX, for production. So let's have a look how it works, all right? But let's do a real life coding like before. Let's go to my terminal, let's go to my desktop. And how many of you use React? It's a React-friendly environment. How many of you use Angular? Or all the rest? All right. Let's do a React one just because. So create React app. Let's call it offline demo or just Mimic. Yep, all right. Haven't finished yet. It is. Interesting. Yeah, took some time. WebStorm is great, but it's written with Java, so. All right. So let's build something very, very simple. Let's try to do something like this. It doesn't really matter if you know React or not. Just use it for a fast demo. So I'm going to create state. I've got some, you know what? I don't need this. What I want to do, I want to create lifecycle hook, component will mount. Here I want to fetch something from the server, and then I just want to log it for now. Let's take the response. return a response.json, and then take the data and just log it. All right, looks good. We just need some data to fetch from somewhere. So I've got here a link for a Google Books API. Just paste it here. Let's try to see if it works. Yep, all right. Now I'm working on this feature, but the client that I work with has got some issues. The servers are down. They're doing some major refactoring. I don't have the API available for me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to npm, install Mimic. What happened? Typo? I use the same name for my project. That's a problem. I think. Refusing to install package with the name Mimic under the package name Mimic. That's the fun part about live coding. You can learn a lot of new stuff. I never tried to do it before. But I'm going to change the name right now. We fix it, and everything will be okay. Rename directory, Mimic app. Hopefully, do refactor. Hopefully it will solve the problem. If not, don't worry. We're not going to waste too much time on it. What do you say? What are the chances? No chance. All right. Yeah, but I'm lazy. I'm too lazy. I'm going to do like create another app, create React app, and just call it a demo. It would work. All right. Let's open it up. Continue with the demo. Hopefully no issues here. Let's wait just for the script to over. All right. npm start. I'll take the code that I wrote before because, again, I'm lazy. I don't want to rewrite it. Actually, now we can see how Visual Studio Code can be very helpful if you just need to pick on some code. Quit. Back to WebStorm. Let's go to our app.js. Put it right here. Switch to JSX. And I think we're good. Let's give it a try. All right. So we've got a call to the server. Going back to the demo. npm, I'm installing Mimic, which is just a creative use of Serviceworker. After I've got Mimic installed, I'm going to go to my Indexjs and just import it. That's it. So, Mimic, that's it. Back to my app. Now you can see I've got here, can you see it? Right here? Mock and get. All right, cool. So everything working because we are connected to the internet, so we will be able to see the data. Let's go offline. If I go offline, I don't have an app, I don't have data, I don't have nothing. All right? Back to the code. I'm going to change this to fetch data. And right here, let's put a button, fetch this, fetch data. The reason I'm doing it, because currently my entire app is not supporting offline, but the data I'm pulling for a real server, so I want to be able to launch the app and then lose my connection. All right, so I'm fetching, I've got the data. So let's say I'm online, my app is running, suddenly I don't have network anymore, let's go offline, doing a fetch, and nothing works, all right? So what I can do with Mimic, or in other words, with Serviceworker, I'm not promoting any library, just show you the code, is doing this. When I'm online, I can come here, fetch data, I can see that the Serviceworker knows about my request. All I need to do is to check it out and press mock. That's it. Now, if suddenly I become offline, let's go to network, offline, then back to my console, and I'm fetching, I've got data. No magic, simple use of Serviceworker, the example that I showed you before. I'm listening to the fetch event. If I've got a fetch event, if I got a server, I'm taking the response, I'm saving it on a local cache. If you don't have any network, I'm just returning from the cache. So this tool that we build with Serviceworker help us as front-end developers to be able to work with server up and running or without it. All right? And again, you can look at the code. It's open source. It's on GitHub, so you can learn a lot about it. So this is a very useful thing to do with Serviceworker, with the example that we just sent. But where do we save the data? So I want to introduce you the cache interface. The cache interface provides us a key value storage for requests. So if I go back to our app, our to-do app, let's close this one and go back to our to-do list. Where is it? Here it is. So we already got this structure, all right? But I'm going to add caching. On the install lifecycle event, I'm going to call event wait until. Then I'm going to use cache open, and this method will create a cache if it's not exist, or use an existing one. So app key, whatever. It will return a promise. Now I've got my cache, and I can use cache add all. And right here, I can just put a bunch of scripts that will be cached. Second, please. I've got only 5 minutes. I'm going to show you a working example. Don't take pictures yet. Yet. Don't worry, yet. Don't take pictures because we're going to revert the changes. And I'm going to skip to a branch called Cache Basics and show you the following code. All right? So, cache open, static to do, just mention a bunch of files that I want to cache, and on my fetch event, I'm using the cache match to see if the request is there. If not, I'm just delegating to my own fetch event request. With few lines of code, this app to do is currently completely offline. So if you give it a try, it's right here. Let's give it a try. What's happened? I need to be online for the first time, of course. Right? Hopefully everything works. Let's go offline. I will refresh the page, and everything still works. So the entire app, because I fetched everything, all of my JavaScript, the entire app is fully functional, even if I lost my network. And it's that easy. Because again, starting with service workers, it's not hard. All right, let's look at some slides. So I've got here for you all the references you need. You've got this code on GitHub, the examples, if you want to play with it. All right? And I want to jump forward because I'm not a big believer in slides. I like to show some code and some useful stuff instead. All right. Go to the future. Few things to mention about modern frameworks. And when I'm talking about modern frameworks, I'm talking about Angular and React for now. If you're working with Angular and you've got an app up and running with the Angular CLI, you're using ng-add Angular PWA, and that's it. Automatically, your entire app will be available offline. Behind the scenes, by default, and you can configure it, the Angular CLI will cache all of your important files and your entire app will be available offline. If you're working with React, create React app, the CLI command, will put a service worker for you, but not like Angular. By default, it will cache images and CSS and not your entire app. So you need a little bit of configuration. So if you use Angular or React, it's already done for you. You don't need to worry about it. You've seen that the API is very easy to use, but you get it for free, so why not, all right? If you're a hipster and you're using a Vue or something else, so you can use this library, Workbox from Google, all right? Why are you laughing? Because hipsters use Vue? Yeah, I know. I know them in person, which is a completely wrong link, right? Wonder why, right? Workbox from Google is a library to make your life even easier. So we can use code like this. Workbox routing, register route, catch all the JS and CSS, and my strategy will be cache first, network first, or any other strategies. So with 3 lines of code, you've got an entire caching mechanism which is very smart and knows how to update itself for free. So as you can see, we've got a lot of support out there, so it's actually no excuse at all not to use it. 2 words about Indexdb. I saved the best for last because it's so easy that you would cry. Probably not, but all right. So Indexdb is supported in all the major browsers, not on IE, but we don't care, all right? All the important stuff. I use the library named npm idb, because Indexdb is a low-level API, and I don't like low-level API when I'm building web apps. I've got an example for you, which you can find on the code, but creating a database with all this amount of storage that we've got, it's easy like using service workers. So as you can see from this example, I can create a database, I can put some data, I can fetch some data, and it's a fully working database living on my client side. It's got nothing to do with service workers. You can combine it with service workers and save stuff to your local DB, but you can use it as a standalone. I encourage you to check this out. If you haven't checked Indexdb yet, give it a try. Again, you've got all the examples you need right here. No service worker, no sophisticated technology, your web page talking with a locally database. Not a sophisticated database, but enough for most of our needs. The guy before mentioned CouchDB. CouchDB, yeah? I will take only 2 minutes more, don't worry, all right? Yeah. So like, again, to expose you to some great libraries. Who heard about PouchDB? PouchDB, built on top of Indexdb, and if you take a look at this code, db put, db change, and then db replicate to a real CouchDB server, you can build web apps that use local database, this PouchDB, which automatically sync with a remotely CouchDB server when you've got online. So always on sync automatically. All you need to do is, again, 5 lines of code. Interact with your local CouchDB, and it will get sync with your remotely CouchDB database. So you basically got working with databases and synchronize everything for free. If you're not aware of all of those libraries, don't worry, I will get you all the links you need. So all the links you need, what are the next steps? Now that we discovered that giving our app offline capabilities is very easy, even too much easy those days, I encourage you to check out this free course on Udacity. Who heard about Udacity? Anyway? Oh, most of you, all right. Great course. 2 hours, that's it. Covers everything you need to do about service workers and offline and completely free. With this, hopefully, after this talk, you discover that bringing offline capabilities to your app is actually pretty easy. I like first to thank you. Second, if you've got more questions, I'm here. I've got nowhere to go until tomorrow. So I invite you, if you want to come, talk about other things, talk about Angular, talk about offline, talk about the Frontend Band. I'm here for you. And if you like to donate for a very important cause, you can buy those books. All the money I donate to people who still use Windows, so they're able to buy MacBooks. So thank you very much, and see you around. Thanks. We've got time for questions, or I just... What do you need? Oh, right, go for it. The books, all right.
Okay, so we're going to have about 6 minutes for questions. Right. So, yeah, we got some time.
So I had 6 more minutes.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I want to get to the questions. Like, or the questions are going to get knocked out.
Yes, please, questions. There's no questions because it's so easy. Yeah.
We've got time for both of them, so. Okay.
Because the slides were just perfect. Yes, please.
So you provided several examples of libraries that are out there, easy to plug in. I use React Native combined with React Native Web as a write once, run anywhere. Mm-hmm. Are there any solutions that would provide that you know of that would provide a unified syntax in that scenario?
Yes and no. I mean, currently, a mobile browser supports service workers. So you can hack it around. You don't have any library. I'm not aware of any library that will give you a nice syntax. But as you've seen, it's pretty much straightforward. So you can use the low-level API and get what you want. But I'm not aware of any library right now that give you a nice abstraction.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Any other questions?
One over here.
Yeah? No? Yeah, oh, right there on the back.
With that PouchDB, do you have to call something, or does it automatically just sync?
You don't need to do nothing. You've got it automatically from the library. I mean, okay. CouchDB they use the protocol that CouchDB use.
Okay.
So you've got everything for free. You just need to provide a link to your remotely CouchDB. Okay. And the library will listen to the events that need to be listened to, and when you're online, it syncs automatically. I used it in at least 2 projects, and it works like magic. Cool. It's actually a very simple code behind the scenes. It's not like black magic. You've seen the low-level solution. I'd be able to build something with service workers and a few lines of code. All right. Anything? Anyone? All right. So I'm here around if you'd like to talk. Let's continue. Thank you. Thank you again.